Hi guys, I'm Aaron. I've been talking to you on the Awesome Canoe and Kayak vlog about preparing the Hobie Oasis for the Texas water safari. The safari was about, well, it was a few weeks ago. We didn't make it as far as we liked, but we still thought we rigged a pretty good boat, so I'm going to talk about that today. This is it. It's pretty heavily modified, so we're going to go through kind of bottom to top and front to back and let you know what we did. To take a kayak that was meant for lakes and rivers, kind of deep rivers and oceans, and rig it so that it's meant to go down rapids and really shallow water. We put a lot of work into it, but the shallow water thing was one of the first things we were worried about, especially with the Mirage drives. So what we did is we put a Kevlar skid plate on the bottom of the kayak, and this plate will stick to the polyethylene plastic of the kayak, and it's actually 2 layers of Kevlar. But anyway, this is the area of the boat that we were bottoming out all the time during our training runs. We weren't starting to get a hole into it, but we might have started to get a hole into it if we hadn't put this plate on there. But I mean, this is mostly from dragging it over rocks for hundreds of meters in the very low San Marcos River. But anyway, that's the bottom of the boat. You can see it's kind of pretty beat up anyway. At the front of the kayak, we'll start. We have a LED light. It's supposed to be 170 to 400 lumens, but it's LED, so that hopefully it won't use as many batteries, because we have to carry everything with us on the race. Ours is kind of unique because we rigged up a switch that allows us for the bow person to flip it on and off. With this particular setup, and you're sitting in the middle of the boat, it would have been hard for somebody to reach forward, especially over the drives, and turn the light on and off. So anyway, that allows the guy in the front to control the light. Now, in the bow hatch here, we rigged up a drinking system. Basically, it's a camelback, and we go through this hatch, so you can actually close the hatch and you can still drink out of your camelback like you would before. The reason for this is because it's a sit-on-top kayak. It's sealed, and when it's sealed, it's watertight, so you can flip it over, you can do anything to it, it's not going to sink. But that's only if the hatches are closed. If you flip with the hatches open, it'll fill up with water. So we wanted some way to be able to drink out of the camelbacks while the hatches were closed. Also, with this kayak, there's not a whole lot of deck space on it, so you had to put as much stuff as possible inside the kayak. So the next thing is on the stern person's seat. We're going to talk about the rudder controls in a second, but on the stern person, on the stern hatch, what this is it's a depth finder, and then we also have a drinking tube, and then we can go underneath and look here. This is the depth finder. The depth finder is powered by this power pack, and we rigged it up. It's from an MP3 player, and it's got a quick-acting fuse in it, but it allows you to plug in your depth finder like you would an MP3 player, but it's actually a power pack that provides 12 volts. The neat thing about this is waterproof, so it just kind of floats around the bottom of the hole and allows us to change our batteries and not worry about it. But it's modular too, and we have a pump, a bilge pump for the boat, which actually came in handy during the race, if you read the blog. But the bilge pump also runs off the batteries, so you can just switch them in and out. We have the drinking tube, we have the depth finder. The depth finder was key for us because when it's dark or when the water is muddy, we want to be able to know how deep it is so we can know if we can use the drives or not. The neat thing about this one, even though it's a cheaper model, it actually has a buzzer on it that will start buzzing, and you can set it to buzz at a shallow water warning. So ours is set to go off at 2 feet, so we can be going and I don't have to be looking down at this the whole time to know when it gets to be shallow water, right? You just get used to listening to the beeping noise. So the depth finder, what you see, the controller is in the back. In the front is actually the puck, and there's wires that run the length of the boat on the inside. And in the front of the boat, it's kind of hard to see, but there's a puck that's been epoxied into the inside of the boat. And we had some trouble getting that puck to stick down, but we ended up using that same epoxy that we used to stick down the skid plate, and it sticks pretty well to polyethylene. But anyway, that allows, because obviously wherever this puck is, the transducer puck is where it's going to read the depth of the water. and we wanted it in the front of the boat so we would know when stuff is coming up. So another thing that makes this particular kayak pretty unusual is that because we're going to be in shallow water a lot, we were not going to be able to use the Mirage drives. And if you haven't seen, the drives pop out really quickly, and so there's a lot of time those drives were out and they were actually just sitting in the footwells. But this kayak is not that great to paddle as opposed to using the drives, and especially you want to use the rudder. But this boat comes with a hand rudder, but it doesn't have a foot rudder on it. So we rigged ours up with a tow rudders, so it actually has a dual rudder control system, has the traditional hand one that Hobie put in, and we put in this Smart Track rudder system, and allows you to control it with your feet or with your hands. And the rudder itself is actually pretty unique. So moving back here, shallow water again is the problem. Most of the things that we did were to deal with shallow water, but this is an aluminum kick-up rudder, and the idea behind this is that when you come up and you're on a rock, you don't actually have to put the rudder up, because a lot of times you don't see the rocks and they're coming at you pretty quick. And when you don't have control, you're more likely to hit stuff anyway, so you basically want the rudder the whole time. But anyway, the rock's coming along, it hits the rudder and kicks it up, but you don't lose control. You don't actually ever have to put your rudder up unless you're going in reverse, but that probably shouldn't happen. But you also see some of the dual rudder hookup. We also installed a hatch on this rear deck. The idea behind this is that it wasn't so much to store stuff, but it was if we had problems. These are the rudder cables, but if we had problems and we needed to re-rig something, we want to be able to put our hand in here and get to it easily. The seats, if you have a Hobie, you'll notice that the seats are a little bit different than the regular Hobie seats. We modified some taller back seats. They also have some more supports on them that the Hobie seats don't come with, but we found these to be a lot more comfortable. And also, when you're, the Hobie seats are fine because you're meant to be pedaling around a lake, but these seats are meant to be driving quickly for long periods of time. You're putting a lot more effort in than you would just be normally cruising. So these seats are actually a really nice addition, and it's really comfortable now. I mean, you can sit in this thing for just hours pedaling at a pretty good rate and not get worn out. But anyway, that's how we rigged it up, and I'm guessing this is probably the most modified Hobie kayak out there right now. I'd like to see someone who's done more modifications to it, because I'm not quite sure what else you could do. But anyway, I hope that was informative, and we'll see you out on the water.